We all have a right to a better future for our children and grandchildren, but we must also make a conscious effort to ensure that this happens, that we leave behind a legacy and something that we can be proud of. After all, it is the future that we want. Things like poverty eradication, gender equality, healthy lives and well-being are all part of what are termed as a Sustainable Development Goal. There is a universal set of goals, targets, and indicators that UN member states will be expected to use to frame their agendas and political policies over the next 15 years. The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, follow and expand on the Millennium Development Goals, which were agreed upon by world governments in 2000 and are due to expire at the end of 2015. So what happens beyond the target year? For each town, city, country, continent, and in essence the world to achieve these goals, we must think globally, but we must act locally. For the current generation of children, if these development goals are reached, then it is their generation that will live in a much better world by the time that they are 30. After all, is the goal. Here in Kenya, the UN Sustainable Development Goal Project, Safaricom, Save the Children, Amnesty International, VSO, and the Seed Institute have come together under the umbrella Action 2015 to help nurture ideas from children and to create solutions to ensure that this is not just a conversation, but a reality. Through the hashtag MyKenya and via Facebook at Action 2015-KE, the vehicle to share ideas exponentially was created. Ambassador Macharia Kamau was the co-chair of the Open Working Group for the SDGs. It was a first in Kenya. A chance to build a swell of encouragement to make sure these goals are as ambitious as possible and truly game-changing for so many around the world. Starting here. The new set goals are collaboratively developed and agreed upon by people and their governments. These goals can lead to a world in which people enjoy a life of dignity, where basic rights are not just a luxury, but a right. Action 2015 is a global campaign that brings together various stakeholders and partners committed to fighting poverty, inequalities, and climate change in countries around the world. Through this process, people, organizations, government agencies, and development partners come together to provide a generational opportunity for transformational change. Here in Kenya, this group of organizations, who are no strangers to pitching in and rolling up their sleeves, were part of a movement dubbed NICO 15.
I think the trick in addressing the SDGs is partnerships. And we would urge companies to get involved with like-minded private sector companies through things like the United Nations Global Compact Board. Here in Kenya, we have about 100 companies signed up. We'd ask them to sign up because there you'd get involved in like-minded people, you'd understand some of the challenges, and you'd understand some of the tools that can be used for addressing some of these challenges.
For Save the Children's Kenya Country Director, Duncan Harvey, it's about safeguarding the future for children, not just in Kenya, but essentially across Africa and the globe.
Truly, our vision is that we can eliminate things like preventable deaths of children. We can eliminate a situation where children of school age are not attending school. We have a really exciting opportunity to be the first generation to eliminate those things, not just to see reductions, but to bring about a much brighter future and a much more promising situation for today's children. That's why we're bringing together 15-year-olds to say, you can be the generation that really makes a difference. And we want to be able to look back in 2030 and say, well, we really did make a difference. We really did succeed in getting more children into school, in improving healthcare of children, in reducing poverty, in addressing inequality, and addressing things like climate change.
The concept, targeting a group of young individuals who will grow to become the next generation of leaders.
The NICO 15 project worked with some 15-year-olds, and over the next 15 years, these young people will grow into adults, and we've asked them what it is they want to see out of the SDGs, and we've done that together with SEED, with Amnesty International, and with some other partners. And what they've said is they'd like to see decent jobs for all, they'd like us to address climate change and the environment, they'd like us to have quality education, and they'd like us to focus on health.
Just 5 kilometers from Nairobi city center lies the sprawling Kibera informal settlement. It is the largest slum in Nairobi and the largest urban slum in Africa. Poverty is the norm here, and conditions in Kibera are extremely poor. Most of its residents lack access to basic services, including electricity and running water. For 16-year-old Mary from New Horizons Secondary School, life is tough.
Very many people are dropping out of school just because of things like drug abuse, peer pressure, and that's not good. So, as we live here in Kibera, we are living carefully.
But Mary, like many young people of her generation, is positive that Kenya offers hope and that the future is bright.
It's better to be courageous than to give up in life. That's the quote that I live up in. Most of my friends, they have dropped out of school just because of using drugs, peer pressure, and I'm the only one continuing in school. So it's not so much easy.
Staying positive is certainly not easy.
The houses here, they are so much close together. So if one house catches fire, all the houses will get fire. So it has been a bad experience. I'm still recovering to it because there was this fire that came up near our home and it burnt everything, even all my notes. So I'm trying to I'm trying to live up by the situation. So living here, it's not so much easy.
Mary is making a difference with the power of the pen.
I was able to write an essay. It was based on mostly environment and the integrity in our country and human rights and children being taken good care of. What I'd like to see in the coming years, as I'll be 30 years old, I'd like to see our country clean, our country full of vegetables, no cutting trees, we should kill tribalism, and then know that a child is a child because many girls are being discriminated out there.
Photography, drawings, poetry, songs, and short essays were composed across Kenya in an effort to bring to light the issues facing youth in Kenya and the solutions, creatively.
When I look to the east, west, south, and north, all I could see is the whole world is crying. Who will save us from this agony of destruction and suffering? When I look at the opposite sides of my life, tears run out of my eyes like a river flowing down the stream. The old world is crying. Who will save us from this agony of destruction and suffering?
For Milda Achieng, it's about starting with her surroundings, an environmentalist with a difference, and a little help from Dad in getting her message to Safaricom.
I searched for the poem because there was the thing that you can do well. So I searched for the poem and got the poem and wrote. So my dad sent the poem to Nico 15. I look at our environment in Kibera slums. They are not clean and we face many challenges. For example, here in our school, in our kitchen, there's no clean plates that you can use for water because water usually gets lost in our school. So you must come with a plate from your home. Others are just sitting on the dirty plate. So it's bringing diseases. So I choose the environment because I wanted to change.
Established in 1964, Precious Blood School's enrollment was meant for children from the immediate vicinity of Kawangware, Riruta, and Uthiru, who had been adversely affected by the Mau Mau struggle. Located in Kawangware location of Dagoretti constituency in the Nairobi province, 7 kilometers to the west from the city center, the school is a two-stream school with a student population of 360. And one young lady called Ashley who has her own ideas of what Kenya should look like by 2030.
The poem is how I dream about Kenya, how I want Kenya to be in the next 15 years, as in basically a comparison of how is it right now and how I want it to be in the future for the next generations and for my time, for how it should be developed and how it should be a better Kenya for 2030. And the drawing was in two parts. One side was basically black and white of how there's violence and there's pollution and just a bad picture of Kenya that's majorly highlighted by a flag that I drew. It was somehow torn. And in the other side, it was a colored picture of a more developed Kenya with a brighter flag and birds and the sun, yeah.
Ashley's classmate Judith has experienced her own challenges as the last born of a family of 8.
Being from a family of 8, sometimes a nice experience. Sometimes it's challenging, especially that the family may not be financially stable.
However, Judith has taken it upon herself to succeed, with a few rules to live her life by.
As a student of Precious Blood, I have learned a lot, especially in my growth. And the things I've learned mostly is self-drive, responsibility, and the spiritual growth that I acquire in this school, most especially in the small things that we're encouraged to do by our principal and our fellow friends. I've also learned to interact with people of different social, economic, and cultural backgrounds, and how to work together to achieve whatever we need in life.
There is a feeling amongst the youth running through Kenya, a feeling that now is the time to create a better Kenya. Since the conception of the Millennium Development Goals 15 years ago, Kenya has seen unprecedented progress in free primary school enrollment. Reductions in the number of HIV/AIDS cases and overall poverty is reduced. The Nickel 15 targets young people who turn or turned 15 in 2015.
The UN began a process of developing their SDGs in around late 2010, early 2011. So it's been a very wide and complicated consultative process between now and then. But one thing that we can say is that it has been incredibly consultative. We hope that this process of consultation and inclusivity will create national and regional ownership of these goals.
Welcome to Machakos, 63 kilometers southeast of Nairobi. Machakos is a major urban center, a place that is moving fast towards 2030. With the help of students like Solomon Aguto of Kisukioni Secondary School, Solomon decided on a poem to get his very important message across.
The title of my poem was Peace In, Violent Out. I chose this title because in the recent days we have had many people undergoing the violence which were not seen as a violence. There was domestic violence, and in the poem I've actually written about the domestic violence.
Here in Thika, dubbed Kenya's Birmingham because of its former industrial textile prowess, is a school that has made tremendous contributions to Kenya's history. Mangu's school boasts a high profile of many successful alumni, amongst them politicians, lawyers, businessmen, clergymen, scientists, engineers, doctors, and pilots. Among the high-profile politicians who studied here are former Kenyan President Mwai Kibaki, former Vice Presidents Moody Awori and George Saitoti. It is also home to this future leader.
As an ambassador of Nickel 15, I'd like to see the technology being accessible to everyone. I'd like to urge the parents who tell their children to read from the books. I'd like to urge them to also allow them to use the technology, as it is helpful and it may give information which is not offered by the books.
Traveling west to Kisii in Kenya's Nyanza province, we discover that even here, in this vibrant and colorful town with a population of roughly 200,000, Nickel 15 fever is hit.
It's an issue concerning reduction of poverty in Kenya, because people are striving hard to get money in order to take their kids to school, but indeed it's so difficult. Their kids are literally outside in the village without having work to do. Some parents have tried hard to make people in order to get money in order to take their kids to school, but it's so difficult. Sometimes the money is not enough. As an ambassador of Nickel 15, I could like to tell my fellow colleagues at 15 years by 2030 to work hard in school and in various schools to join some various activities that I'll bring out later. In order by 2030, we can find that we have improved our country, Kenya.
And up to Butere.
The poor's property grabbed by the rich for their own benefit. Their children are returned. What I would like to see changing in Kenya, it is the way the conduct of between poor and rich people, meaning that I should see equality among the people of Kenya and readiness to work together. I should see harmony in every society.
It might begin here in Kenya with these 15-year-olds, but the Nico 15 initiative has the potential to improve the lives of millions of people in Kenya and billions around the world.